Welcome everyone, this is Gray Shirt Guy, rock the gray shirt as always. Here we're going to be doing a little painting tutorial on how I do these yellow Death Company. These are not Lamenters, although a lot of people have been mentioning whenever I post still pictures online that like, oh, these look really like Lamenters. No, not Lamenters. Actually, what these are Death Company for a successor chapter that I made for Blood Angels. I didn't really like the red of Blood Angels, so I went with more of a purple, blue, and green with the Blood Angels, and I don't have any of them painted right now. I have some of them in storage, but I got these Death Company. I wanted to paint the Death Company first, but I didn't want them to obviously be blue or green or anything, because it didn't really match the color scheme I was going for. Because Death Company are always an alternate color scheme from Blood Angels. When you look at the Death Company Marines, they're normally black and red and silver, while the Blood Angels are all red with a little bit of black. They're kind of like an inverse color scheme, sort of. I decided to go with just a more striking color scheme, so you could tell that if I ever do make any Helena Marines, which is the name of the chapter, if I ever do make any jump infantry, you could tell them differently, because the jump infantry will be purple. And I wanted the Death Company jump infantry to be a striking color that could not get confused with the other ones. So what I chose with this yellow, and I went with this green as the accent, and then so it's basically yellow and green with a bunch of reds and some silvers and a little bit of blue thrown in there, and then these cool GW Citadel new bases, these little textured bases. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process of how I painted this guy and how I got starting with this one. If I can get into focus. There we go. Okay, so they're sort of focused together. Now, I went through a few iterations of this one before I came to the color scheme I liked. First one I ever did was this guy right here. Very, very, very yellow. Almost too yellow in my personal opinion. I did shade him, and then I just went kind of crazy with the yellow. I liked how the white turned out. The white turned out really well. But I think the yellow is just a little bit too much, a little too bright. And then the second one I did was this guy. This is kind of where I was leaning towards more of a darker yellow, a little bit more shading involved. And yeah, but I think the backpack on this one is just a little too bright. But I do like the way the engines plume up. So we're going to move him on over. And this is kind of the reference that we're going to be using, and we're going to be trying to achieve on this guy. So I'm going to show you how we go through. And in normal fashion, the way I paint my Space Marines or any Warhammer models for effect is I actually watch a lot of Stargate while I paint. So I'm gonna, I'm not gonna, obviously the video is not showing the entire thing because this video is much longer than it would take to paint this model. But I'll go through each color. I'll show you how it works. And then we'll just, jump our way through the colors. So hope you guys enjoy, and let's kind of get into it. So the way the model first starts is you want to give yourself a nice white base coat. I use Citadel's Corax spray just because it's the only thing I really had available. I really miss their Skull White. I kind of think their Corax spray, it doesn't coat evenly. The Chaos Black spray that Citadel makes is great. Like GW's Chaos Black spray is awesome. I have no problems with it. Just not a big fan of the Corax White. If I had better access to different painting, different cans of spray paint, I would try to use a flat white primer. I don't know. Corax White, I've been having a lot of issues. Plus, I'm in a humid environment here, so these were actually primed months ago. They've just been kind of sitting here collecting dust, so I figured I would paint them. And since they have been collecting dust, I'm going to give them a quick little spray down. I did decide to go with cork bases instead of instead of gluing them to their bases, because I wanted to give it a try. And it works pretty great, except for on these 1 foot models, because I only peg them to 1 foot, so I don't have any tack. If I had some putty tack, I'd tack the bottom of their feet, but we'll just have to deal with it. And yeah, they spin the whole damn time, so that is kind of annoying. But you won't have to watch me struggle the whole time with these. And then for the first color, I use a base of Averland Sunset. That's the first color. I basically just do one single coat. I know a lot of people will say use multiple thin coats. I use one single relatively thin coat. I definitely mix it with water. And yeah, just one thin coat of this Everland Sunset. It's a base, so it goes on pretty smooth. As far as brushes I use, I mostly only use one brush for this entire process. For the most part, I just use a Citadel small base brush. I do have a, what is it? I have a medium layer brush, which is very similar to the small base brush. And I have a series of just like dry brushes, because sometimes I'll do dry brushing. But for the most part, this is where I do all the base coat at once. So I base coat the entire model, everything all at once, and then I throw on a wash, and then I do highlights. And that's kind of the painting process that you're going to see. All right. So what's the next color that I want to go to? What's the next base coat color on this model? Now each model is slightly different, and plus I have the jetpack over here. I'm going to do the jetpack separately, and then after I wash them, I'll glue them together, and then you'll see the guy in the jetpack. So you won't see me do the jetpack, but pretty much every single color that's on the jetpack is on the model. So don't worry about it. Stay in focus. All right, let's see. What color do I want to use first? Well, if we look at our little example models, red's a prominent color. We got some white that's going to go on here. I like to save white for the last, though. We got some silver. We can put some bronze on here. So if we look at this right here, I don't like the shoulder pad on here. It's got a big blood drop. So that's going to be red. And normally the shoulder pad would be red as well, but I don't want double red. So I'm going to keep this yellow, and that's going to be red. And same thing, I'm going to keep this outside yellow, and that's going to be red. So what I think I'm going to do next is I think I'm going to go for red as the next color. And we'll do all the parts that need to be red, and then we'll do all the parts that need to be green, and we'll work our way through it. So pretty much the color I use for my red base is Mephiston red. Makes perfect sense. All right, so we're going to use some Mephiston red, and we'll come back and show you what it looks like. All right, so we've done the red parts with the Mephiston red base coat. Do a little twirl. And the way you do the base coat, you can be a little bit, what's the word, messy. Like, yeah, you can make a few mistakes, because once you do the initial base coat with all the colors, so you're going to fully paint the whole model with the entire base coat. Once you do that, you can, I go back and I go through and I pick out any points where I may have made a mistake. And I did do the jetpack, so. And this is going to be a little more difficult to get the green in between the corners, but I'll figure it out. All right. So what color are we going to go next? Well, next we're going to go with green. We're going to do the green color, which starts with Caliban green. So I'm going to do the Caliban green, and we'll be back in a bit. All right. So we got all the Caliban green put on the areas which are going to be green, which is mostly just the feet and around the shoulder pads and the eyes. I made a lot of mistakes. If I were to zoom in, let's see if I can do this. There's a lot of little mistakes, little errors where I was not steady with the brush. It's fine. We're gonna clean those up later. Not a big deal. Also did the jetpack as well, and it definitely got some splotching in areas that don't need splotching. Not a problem, like I said. We're gonna go on to Xandri dust now. We're gonna do all of the parchment areas and the ropes. You could do the ropes a slightly different color, but just for keeping these kind of a tabletop standard, I'm not going to bother with doing the ropes a different color. They're just all going to be the same color. And then, yeah. And then we're going to move on to probably try to keep my metallics last. So we're probably going to do the weapon next. And then we'll move on to the metallics. It seems like that's probably... Oh, well, then we're going to do white. And then we're going to move on to the metallics. So, and then maybe some black for right there on the power fist. So, all right. Anyways, I'll show you how I do where I put the Xandri dust. And yeah, as far as coating is concerned, mostly I just use one coat. I do thin it down. And I'll check the consistency by placing it onto my hand here. Basically, I use this as a little soft palette. And then you can kind of feel the paint. And when it kind of builds up, you just peel it off and you just keep going. So, yep, that's how I do it. And let's continue on. All right, here we put all the Xandri dust on there. We're starting to get closer and closer and closer. Next, we're going to do the weapon, and then we'll do the white parts, and then we'll move on to the metallics. Oh, I can't forget. I gotta do a little bit of black there. So let me actually do the black first, so I don't forget it. So for black, I just use Citadel Base Chaos Black. So I'm gonna do this little pipe up here, and then we're gonna move on to using Mechanicus Standard Gray on the weapon. So actually, I'm gonna do both the Chaos Black and the Mechanicus Standard Gray all in ones because they're two small pieces. And yeah, and then we go on, and I did the little ribbon on the backpack. So. Alrighty. Alright, so we've done our Ministratum Gray and our black, and now we're going to put a little bit of blue on this Flamer cannon. I've decided to use blue. Sometimes I use red or orange, but this time I'm going to use blue. So I'm going to go with a spot of Calidor Sky. We'll be using this again later for the thrusters on the jetpack, so I might be doing that also at the same time. So, alright, and see you guys in a moment. Reshow the paint. There we go. All right, we've done the base coat of Cantor Blue, and if you can see there, it's definitely covered up some of the red I've done before. It's fine, not a problem. We'll fix that later. We'll fix that in post. And we did the little afterburner jets, and we're going to make those a lot brighter when we do the highlighting. So now we're going to move on to white, because we're going to do the wings. So we're going to do any of the details that use wings. So I'm going to use some base coat Ceramite White. And yeah, and after the white, we're going to move on to the metallics, and we're getting closer and closer to being done. All right, so we got our white done on our wings. Obviously, we got a little bit of over mess, but like I said, we're going to clean that up. Now we're moving on to the metallics. I believe we're going to go with a copper first, and then we're going to do the silvers, or I might go silver first, then copper. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, I think I'm going to go silver. So what I'm going to do for silver, we're going to use some lead belcher. Boom. And that's pretty much for the piping and the little connector points between the armor and the greaves. Oh god, it's so out of focus. Yeah. And yeah, we'll be back in a minute. Right, so we got the silvers done. Finished up with that lead belcher. Now we're moving on to the gold / copper. And basically, we're going to use Balthazar Gold for any of the icons or chapter symbols and older stuff. And then we're going to be using the Screaming Bell for the weapon, because I like the Flamer Tip Devil, a slightly more coppery look to it. And yeah, so we'll be back when we're done. All right, so we pretty much finished all the base coating. And now pretty much I'm just going to go through and I'm going to clean up the mess that's on the model. If you look, you might not be able to see the video, but I can definitely notice there's several points on the model that need some TLC, need to be cleaned up, some pieces that where the paint may or may not have rubbed off. I did glue it onto the base because it kept spinning around on the cork like I knew it was going to, and it was just getting a little bit more irritating, so I glued it on the base a little bit ago. Yeah, so we're going to go through, we're going to clean up. We're going to start from the first color. We're going to work our way through the colors real quick and just hit up spaces that need to be touched up. Alrighty. Right, for the most part, the cleanup is complete. I've fixed up the areas where I had a little bit of over cleanup. It's not going to be perfect, so like there's a little shoulder pad right here. There's a little bit of green still showing through. I can get it to focus. Yeah, there's still a little bit of green showing through where it splashed over onto the yellow. Not a big deal. We're going to fix that up. So for the shade that I use with yellows is I cover the entire model in Agrax Earthshade. I know I've seen a lot of people will cover certain colors with Agrax Earthshade, certain colors with Nuln Oil, and I do have Nuln Oil, and I do use Nuln Oil for darker base coats. But I like the simplicity of coating the entire model in one shade. It kind of brings all these different colors together a little bit instead of mixing different shades. I know obviously if you were to use, I do have a, what is this? This one is I do have a yellow shade, and I have tried it before. And it does make the yellows pop and look a little bit warmer, but I'm trying to get more of a neutral kind of, if I can get this damn thing to focus, there we go. I'm trying to get more of a combined, bringing the colors together, because if you look at it right now, the whole model is very weird, and like up until this point, you're not really going to like the way the model looks. Now, how do I throw on my shade? I find an old brush or just a kind of a beat up brush, nothing too fancy. This is just a messed up brush. Give it a shake that shade up, and then I just liberally, no what do you call that? No watering down, no thinning down. I just cover it over the entire model. And basically, I can't remember who said it. Oh, you know, I missed this part right here. So this part right here was supposed to have some silver on it, and I missed it. But, oh well, I guess we'll just have to fix that up later. Little things like that. They pop up and they're kind of irritating, a little bit annoying, but we'll move on. And I pretty much just glob this thing on. I just coat it, the entire model in Agrax Earthshade. So I'm going to keep doing this, and we'll come back when it's all dry. All right, we're back. The model's dry. I let it dry overnight, and I mean, look at it. Just look at how the difference. Let me zoom in just a smidge. Let me get a little closer. Get this full framed in there. There you go. That looks nice. All right, so yeah, it looks beautiful. Now, I would actually have no problem right now just feeling this on the tabletop. If you're wondering the base, I'm not going to do a painting tutorial for the base. It's basically just the same kind of thing I did with the model, where I use various base colors and then Agrax Earthshade, and then I use some dry brushing to make it look a little more rusted. But either way, now you could easily play with this. No problem. I think no one would ever have any issue with you playing with a model look like this. We're going to take it up a little bit. We're going to throw a little bit of highlighting on it. Maybe, I don't know how long we're going to be doing some highlighting. And you know, I did say earlier that I was going to fix this area and I was going to silver this up. I don't think I am. I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is. It's just, you know, a little happy mistake. But yeah, we're pretty much going to clean it up, and we'll go... So I glued the backpack on, because the way I always do my highlighting is I only highlight the parts where light really touches. Oop, hold on. Let me zoom out. Let me do there we go. Yep. All right, so I set it kind of down on the table, and I kind of point out areas that I want to have highlighting. And if I try to do a flat broad highlight, it's going to look a little weird. So I'm just going to kind of do the edges, and I'm just going to kind of let the brush work where it is. There's not a majorly wrong way to do this. Once you get to this point, it's really just up to you. Practice makes perfect. You just go with how you want to go. What I like to do is, so I'm going to be bringing the yellows back up. So I'm going to take the base coat I already used. We're going to take Averland Sunset. We're going to take Ural Yellow, and we're going to take Flashgitz Yellow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix Iverland Sunset with Ural Yellow. It's going to be about a 1-to-1 mix, and then I'm going to water that down heavily. It's going to be very thin down, very reduced, and then I'm just going to do some random highlights, and then after that I'm going to add some Flashgitz Yellow to a few. I'm just going to basically, while the paint is still wet, while these two are still mixed, I'm going to add a little bit extra. So we're going to get 3 colors where the ending resulting yellow is just going to be a mixture of all 3. With, you know, you'll figure it out as you go. Some people will adhere to using a single color and then using a single color and then using a single color. I like to actually mix all of my colors together, and I add more light tone as I go, so we have a consistent color palette. So the end color looks a little different. And I don't really normally go up to white unless obviously the base is white, like on the Power Fist right here. But you'll see what I'm talking about. And yeah, we'll be back when we're done with it. All right, so I've done the yellow highlighting. I've pretty much just kind of picked out a few spaces. I did it at the top of the jetpack, and I did the outer sides. I didn't really do the inner sides. I just kind of went with the flow, did part of the Power Fist, left a lot of the underside where you're not going to see a lot of the light, left a lot of that just the way it was before with the shade. Got the helmet a little bit, didn't really focus too much on it, just kind of went for places I thought looked nice. And now I'm going to go in with, what's the next primary color? We got green. So I'll go in and do the green, and then, so the way Let's see, we'll put these yellows away. Let me pull the greens out. Just like I did with the yellows, I'm going to start with the base coat. So we got Caliban Green, and then I'm going to go with Warpstone Glow, and I'm going to finish up with a little bit of Moot Green. And we're just going to pick out a few areas, so I'll be back in a moment. The greens are done. There wasn't a lot of green to do, and I made a mistake right here. You can notice. Zoom in. Right there. You got a little bit of the... Oh, come on. Focus. Yeah, I got a little bit of the green on the red. No problem. We're going to throw some red in here. We're going to fix that because we're going to do the red anyways. All right, so what colors are we going to use for the red? Well, since I don't want to get it too orange, I don't want to bring out the orange. I only want to primarily going to use Mephiston Red with a little bit of Evil Sun Scarlet mixed in, but mostly just Mephiston Red. And yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to do. And yeah, let's get into it. All right, so we finished up doing the red. Now we're not done with the red, but I'll come back to that in a little bit. I'm going to be doing, I'm going to fix up the white. I think the metallics are fine. I don't think I'm really going to do anything with the metallics or the gun itself, and I think I'm going to leave the blues. So pretty much the last highlighting I'm really going to do, highlighting-wise, is the white here on the Power Fist. The white underneath the jetpack is pretty much good. And then I'm going to be using, so for that I'm going to be using a Ceramite white mixed with White Scar, just a little bit of mix, get it into a nice consistency, and then put it on there. And then after that, I'm going to use Spirit Stone Red on anything that's like a vial or a blood gem. So if we look at my Maul Fist guy here, if I can get him to, yeah. So pretty much any kind of the teardrop blood, I put a little bit of the Spirit Stone on, and I kind of think it just gives it a little bit of an interesting emphasis on those. So I'm going to be doing that. And I think we're going to leave the gold that's there just the way it is. I don't think I want to make it any brighter. So, yeah, we're just going to do these last bits and then we'll be done. All right, that's how I do it. That's how I painted this yellow Death Company Marine. I applied that technical Spirit Stone Red to all the gem areas. And I don't consider that a gem. So, yeah, it's pretty much done. Hope you all enjoyed this video, and maybe I'll do some more when I do one of the more purple Marines. I've got one more. I've got one more left to finish off the squad, and yeah, it'll be good to go. This has been Grayshirt Guy. Hope you enjoy the painting tutorials, and this has been kind of fun. So have a good day. Goodbye.